So, as many of you know, I think the last couple years have really revealed to parents that they are being ignored increasingly across our country when it comes to their kids' education. We have seen curriculum embedded for very, very young children, classroom materials about sexuality and woke gender ideology. We've seen libraries that have clearly inappropriate pornographic materials for very young kids. And we've seen services that were given to students without the consent or even knowledge of their parents across the country. And unfortunately, that's happened here in the state of Florida. You're going to hear from some parents where that has happened. Now, in Florida, we found at least 6 school districts that had policies to cut parents out of decisions regarding their child's well-being and to shield them from knowing about various forms of mental health services. Broward, Hillsborough, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, Sarasota, and Volusia counties. Martin County also had a gender transition plan that can be implemented without the parents' consent. In Leon County, Florida, a school excluded parents from conversations about a student's, quote, gender transition, a situation for which the district superintendent has apologized for and admit that should never have occurred. And it's not just limited to Florida. In fact, it's probably a lot worse in many other parts of the country. In Idaho, a counselor was working with a 10-year-old student to help the student transition to a different gender without informing the child's parents. In California, a mother has filed a legal case alleging 2 middle school teachers manipulated her child's identity, then called a meeting to inform her, the parent, that the student is transgender. And in California, a high school student recently committed suicide after an LA high school gave her gender transitioning hormones rather than treat her underlying depression. And so we've also found cases where school districts and individual schools took it upon themselves to decide it's okay to sexualize the education of very young children. We've actually have different things, and this is not something that I thought was something that was going to be around. So this is something this is in Florida and other places, school for very young kids. The genderbread man. So this is trying to sow doubt about kids, about their gender identity. It's trying to say that, you know, they could be whatever they want to be. This is inappropriate for kindergartners and first graders and second graders. Parents do not want this going on in their schools. What else do we have? Oh. This is, again, very young kids talking about when I was born, mom and dad said it's a girl, looked in the mirror, I saw a girl, kind of, now I see a boy because of transgender. So this is something that you're putting into classroom curriculum for 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids, and again, that is not something that's appropriate for any place, but certainly in the state of Florida. And shouldn't parents know if that is something that's in the curriculum? They should be able to have a voice in that. And so this is not just in Florida, and again, many other states, it's even more aggressive. In Connecticut, kindergarten students are taught about being transgender as part of, quote, social justice standards. In Denver, kindergartners were subject to, quote, gender sensitivity training, and in Illinois, they require sex education beginning in kindergarten. So this is part of a national trend to cut parents out of their child's education. In Florida, we not only know that parents have a right to be involved, we insist that parents have a right to be involved. And so we've already taken great steps. Last year, I signed the Parents' Bill of Rights in the state of Florida, which was really something that was significant. Last week, we signed curriculum transparency legislation so that parents have a right to access the curriculum that's in their kids' schools, as well as understand what type of books are in school libraries. And today, we will sign HB 1557, the Parents' Rights in Education Bill. And this bill takes 3 main steps. First, the bill prohibits classroom instruction about sexuality or things like transgender in K through 3 classrooms. And after 3rd grade, those curriculums need to be age appropriate. Second, the bill ensures that at the beginning of every school year, parents will be notified about health care services offered at the school, with the right to decline any service offered. And finally, this bill ensures that whenever a questionnaire or health screening is given to our young students, parents receive it first and give permission for the school to give it to their child. Now, there's been a lot of discussions about this particular piece of legislation. You've seen a lot of sloganeering and fake narratives by leftist politicians, by activists, by corporate media, and you still see it even today after a lot of this stuff has been debunked. Now, it's true, many of the people who whip this up have never actually read the bill. They haven't taken the time to do that. They would rather just further narratives. But I must tell you, these leftist politicians, corporate media outlets, some of these activist groups, they actually have read the bill. And they're sloganeering because they don't want to admit that they support a lot of the things that we're providing protections against. For example, they support sexualizing kids in kindergarten. They support injecting woke gender ideology into second-grade classrooms. They support enabling schools to, quote, transition students to a, quote, different gender without the knowledge of the parent, much less without the parent's consent. And so what they're doing with these slogans and these narratives is they are trying to camouflage their true intentions. They know, in every single poll that's been done that actually reads the language in the bill, will find overwhelmingly Americans oppose injecting this type of material into the classroom of young kids. Americans support the right of parents to be informed and to be able to withhold consent over certain types of medical treatments in school. So they know that, and so that's why they're resorting to some of the narratives. And it hasn't worked, but let's just be clear. It's not just all of them have not read the bill. Many have not. Many have, and many of them want to see this type of stuff in our schools. So be very, very careful when you see that. And someone told me that there's even people in Hollywood that are opposed, to providing protections for parents and enforcing parents' rights. You know, the one thing I'll say about that is, if the people who held up degenerates like Harvey Weinstein up as exemplars and as heroes and as all that, if those are the types of people that are opposing us on parents' rights, I wear that like a badge of honor. And so we will continue to recognize that in the state of Florida, parents have a fundamental role in the education, health care, and well-being of their children. We will not move from that. I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down. We will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not an indoctrination.